Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Om 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 Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. We are, for the next 6 weeks, going to be seeing Nirvana Shatakam. So we had these beautiful talks by Swaminiji last week. And what we're going to be doing in these weekly sessions is looking at the verses and understanding more of the sort of word meanings of what is being described. But first, we'll see a bit of an introduction, and then we'll go into the text itself. So Vedanta itself starts with the quest for happiness. Vedanta starts from a very different place than most people's thinking starts from. Even though, really speaking, most of us are looking for happiness. A professor once called his class in, and everybody sat down. They were expecting their usual sort of usual lesson. But he said, today we are going to have a test. And anytime you get an unexpected test, it's never a pleasant surprise. So everyone was a bit nervous. So he sat everybody down. He said, we're going to have a test today. Everybody sat down. And he went and he handed them all sheets of paper. with the blank side up. He said, don't turn it over until I tell you. So everybody's now racking their brains for, okay, what have we covered in the last few weeks? What could these questions possibly be on? So everybody gets a paper and he says, now, turn the paper over and I want you to write about what you see. So all the students immediately turn over their paper. And what they see is a blank sheet with a black dot in the center. So everybody's staring at this paper, thinking, okay, what are we supposed to do? But the instruction has been given, write about what you see. So now everybody frantically starts writing. And he says after 45 minutes, he says, okay, time's up. He collects everybody's paper and he starts reading everyone's answers. So this professor is reading out what all the students have written. And as he's reading, what becomes clear to the class is everybody has written about that black dot, why it's there, how big it is, the intensity of the black color. They've made up everything and anything that they can about this black dot. And he says, all of you have written about this black dot in the center of the page. And none of you have said anything about the blank space around this black dot. You're so desperately trying to explain why this black dot is here and what it means and what it symbolizes and where it's come from. In other words, we become so fixated on particular things in our life because we think those things will make us happy, because we think that this is the thing that will give me what I'm looking for. And for everyone, what that thing is different, right? So for some people, it's work. For some people, it's a relationship or an experience or something. But we become so overly fixated on things that we forget to look elsewhere. And we forget to really think about whether we are looking in the right place for what we are actually seeking. Like that old lady who is looking outside for her needle. Why? Because there's light. And where has she actually lost her needle? Inside her house. Okay. So all of us are in this position. We are all seeking, but we are all fixed on something or the other within our lives. Vedanta says we're all looking for happiness. And the search for happiness is not something created, right? Nobody sat you down when you were 5 years old and said, listen, now for the rest of your life, what you're going to be doing is looking for happiness. You're going to be looking for peace. So forget your toys and forget your school and forget your friends. What you're looking for is happiness. It's inbuilt in all of us. And that's the reason that we pursue whatever we pursue, whether it's at age 5, toys and friends, or in our teenage years, whatever it is that occupies teenagers, social media, friends again, or even in our adult life, we're pursuing whatever we're pursuing because we think this is what will make us happy. And for most of us, the quest to be happy involves a rearrangement of the things that are available in our life. So the most sort of obvious way of recognizing that is that for the majority of people, happiness means rearranging the objects around me to provide me with peace. Okay? So right now I have a particular set of objects and they're not making me as happy as I think I could be. So then I think, okay, now I need to replace this object with another object. Right now I have a coffee machine that doesn't give me the quality of coffee that I want. I have to go to a coffee shop. So instead of this machine with the pods and the this and that, I need a barista style machine. So I have to get a coffee grinder and particular type of beans and this and that. That machine will be the key to my happiness. Or I'm driving a car and that car is getting me from A to B. But when I sit in my car, I don't enjoy driving. I want to enjoy driving. So I need to upgrade my car experience. So we start trying to rearrange all the objects in our life. If that doesn't work, then we try to change location. So we think, okay, I'm okay here, but I think I could be happier if I moved countries. I think I would be a lot happier if I went to New York, because London is nice, but it's just a bit boring. I've lived here all my life. I think I'd be a lot happier in New York. Or for some people, it's the opposite. They live in the city and they live this highly stressful lifestyle. And then at some point in their 40s, they think, you know what? I want to live on a homestead. So up until now, my boss never let me switch off my phone, and I had to be available from 6 in the morning until 12 at night. So now I want to live somewhere where there's no Wi-Fi also, where I just have to live off the land and dig my own irrigation channels and live in peace. So I go somewhere else. So we look for a new place. Then what we do if that doesn't work, then we try and change the people around us. We think, you know what? I would be perfectly happy. This person and this person and this person was not in my life. It's not me, it's them. So now what should I do? I will change. I will find new people. These people are not entertaining enough, or they're not serious enough. They're not on my wave. So I'll change. So we go through all different kind of variations and situations. We change the things in our life. We change the people in our life. We change where we are. And we're doing all of this because we're looking for satisfaction. We're looking for peace of mind. Sometimes it's not the people or the objects or the places. Sometimes it's even our own body. So we think, you know what? I would enjoy life a lot more. I would be a lot happier if I could do something different with my own body. So then people embark on fitness journeys, right? This also happens. You get to a particular stage in life and you think, no, you know what? Something needs to change. So then they sign up to these programs where you get coached and your diet gets changed and your exercise gets changed. And all of this is happening because we are looking for fulfillment. We're looking for peace. We're looking for satisfaction. And then either we get to a point or we recognize by looking at other people's lives that even if you have everything arranged around you perfectly, there is no guarantee of happiness. And actually, this is a really great lesson to be learned, if we can, from looking at other people's lives. Sometimes it has to happen by introspection and our own experiences. But you take these examples of these, I don't know, it may be a celebrity, it may just be an extremely wealthy person who has everything that we think we could ever want in life. And you examine the quality of life that they're living. And it really won't be what we are seeking. So they have a house in London, a house in LA, a house in Bombay, They have a private aircraft to take them between those houses. In each house, there is a private swimming pool, and there's a driver available, and there is a chef available. There is someone available to do everything that you want. For those people who are struggling with school drop-off every day, you think this kind of life I could definitely get used to with a driver and all sorts of things. But you look at what kind of life they're leading and how those children grow up and what kind of life they go on to lead. Nobody looks at those people and thinks, I want what they have. So even when everything externally apparently is perfect, there still isn't a completeness, the sense of satisfaction or fulfillment that we find just because of the perfect rearrangement of external circumstance. And this we find in our daily lives also, right? Monday morning, you wake up and you think, okay, this is my plan for the week, but the weekend comes and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to relax, I'm going to meet my friends. You plan everything perfectly. You have everything you need at home, you have all your other plans. And then you wake up on Saturday morning and everything you want is there. But if last thing on Friday night, you had a very stressful call with your boss or your team or something, you wake up on Saturday morning, now can you enjoy the weekend? Or Friday night, you find out something's happened to some family member or somebody has had an argument with you. Can you now enjoy the weekend? You can't enjoy it, right? So what happens is we move from looking externally to trying to work on our own mind. Because now we recognize that even if I have the perfect apparatus in front of me, if my mind is disturbed, it will not give me the satisfaction that I'm looking for. So this is the next step that takes place. And this is where people start generally what they think of as their journey into spirituality. And it starts with yoga or mindfulness or meditation practices. Because now what happens is we realize instead of being dependent on people and objects and places and situations, I need to actually take care of my mind. And if my mind is taken care of, I can make the best of whatever is around me. Okay? And even if the situation isn't perfect, if my mind is in a good place, I can still be okay. So now we go into this journey of trying to understand our mind, right? And we do all sorts of things for that. And eventually we get to a place where we feel, yes, I know myself. I know what my needs are. I know what my desires are. I know what my expectations are. I know the situations in which I do well. I know the situations in which I need help. We get to know ourselves. And we feel that we can manage ourselves in whatever situation we're put into. Okay? That person then feels, I can be happy wherever I am, whatever's going on. But, and this is a question for us to think about, is there any moment at which in life you feel it can be safe to take your mind for granted? A simpler question. Can we ever take our mind for granted? Having done the work, right? This is not somebody who's just thinking, I will just be happy whatever comes. Someone who's worked on their mind. Somebody who's done all that self-development work. That person also, is it safe to think, now I am sorted? And now for the rest of my life, I will be fine. Once one young student went to a guru. He said, "Oh master, have you conquered your mind?" And this master looked at him and he didn't reply. So the student thought maybe he didn't hear. He's looking a bit elderly. So he went a little bit closer and a little bit louder. And he said, "Oh master, have you conquered your mind?" And the master looked at him and he still didn't say anything. So the student thought, okay, maybe he's just not in the mood right now. I'll come back and I'll ask him again. So he went away. A few days later, he came back and he asked him again. And again, no response. This student was very persistent. So even though the question was not being answered, he kept going back every so often and he would ask. And every time, he would not get any reply. Now, once the student had gone to a different place and he got news that the master has left his body, he's taken samadhi. So immediately he rushed back and he found that they were laying the body out and taking it on a procession to the river. Because for a realized master, then it doesn't matter what happens to the body. So he rushed there and he was thinking in his mind, he never answered my question. And as this procession was taking place, the student cried out, he called out, he said, "Oh master, now have you conquered your mind?" And then master sat up and said, "Yes, now I've conquered my mind." In other words, only in death there is that reassurance. Up until the last moment of life, we cannot take our mind for granted. And as students of Vedanta, you know that at every moment, what is expressing in our mind, what can suddenly arise without any warning or any preparation. You can be put into a situation and suddenly a thought or a desire will arise. Because we have this whole bank of vasanas, unmanifest tendencies that constantly are expressing. Now, can you see vasanas or not? No, right? So now if you can't see, for example, say you're driving, right? And on your dashboard, there is no indication of how much petrol is in your tank. How will you drive that car? Very carefully. Or you just can't, right? Because you don't know. Say you start it and it starts moving. You have to be so careful now because at any moment something could happen. So now the mind also, you have no indication. There is no scale telling you, okay, you are now at 70% vasanas. You are now at 50% vasanas. Congratulations, you graduated to the next. You are now at 25%. Nothing is there. In other words, with the mind, if we become dependent on our state of mind for happiness, there is always the potential of us being surprised with something. There is no guarantee that the mind will always be peaceful. So now, in terms of how we see this world, in terms of what our experience is of this world, there are really speaking just two elements. There is me, the experiencer, and there is this world which is experienced. Now, objects, people, places, they all belong in experienced. The mind, according to Vedanta, also belongs in the category of experienced. Okay? Now, in our quest for happiness, if we look at the world in this way, really speaking, there are only two places for us to look. There is either the world of experienced objects, or there is me, the experiencer. Say that, just for argument's sake, happiness is in the experienced world. Just for argument's sake. Now, what would be everybody's experience of this world? We would be happy. If happiness was the nature of the experienced world, then no matter where we go, or who we see, or what we experience, we would all be happy. We know that that's not the case. We know that our experience of happiness varies, right? And your first bite of chocolate cake might be the most blissful experience you've had, particularly if you've not had, you deprived yourself for 4 weeks, and somebody comes and gives you, it's my birthday, please have. You think, you know what, I'm on a diet, but since it's your birthday, I'll say yes. And you enjoy it so much. Second bite, third bite, fourth bite, fifth bite also. But say somebody keeps feeding you cake. No, you can't go to sleep until you finish this whole cake. And then when you finished it, I'll wake you up at 2 a.m. and again, I'll start feeding you cake. Then you'll be miserable, okay? Even though objectively speaking, it seems that that cake is the source of great joy. Really speaking, it can't be. So now if happiness is not in the objective or the external world, if it's not in the experienced, it must be the nature of the experiencer. And this is why in our quest for happiness, what we're doing is we're not looking outside, we are looking within. Because we know, however much we look outside, we're not going to find what we're looking for. We will find happiness, right? We will find it. We will find it in short bursts. And it will be really good while it lasts. And then when it comes to an end, we'll be where we were before. So this is why now the quest for happiness is to look inward. And this is where Vedanta is guiding us. That if I'm looking inward, where exactly do I have to look? Because for each of us, our internal world, is it the same or is it different? Is my internal world the same as your internal world? So then your question will be, what do you mean by internal world, right? What do I think of as myself? What do I include in my identity? That is what I think of as I, right? Experiencer. Now, even though it might appear that that's different for everyone, really speaking, it's the same. Because we all have a body, we all have a mind, we all have an intellect. We're all functioning with that same equipment, same condition. And that's why this line of inquiry can be the same for all of us. Right? As to where am I seeking happiness now? So this is where Vedanta is guiding us. And what is being said is we will find happiness when we know who we are. Right? This is a bottom line. We will find happiness when we know who we are. There are said to be two types of achievement in this world. One is the achievement of what we don't already have. And the other is the achievement of what we already have. So you might think, how can you achieve what you already have? Right? But let's look at the first because that's clearer. I don't have anything, object, achievement, status. So in order to achieve that, I need to go out and act, and I will get it. Okay? So say a student who has just finished school doesn't have a university degree. Now, what do you have to do? You go to university, you study for 3 years, you graduate, and at the end you have a degree. You don't have a car, house, etc. So what do you have to do? You act, and then you will achieve. In other words, the way to gain what we don't already have is action. How do we gain what we already have? So for that, the question is, what makes us think that we don't have it? So there's a very famous story of this woman who loses her necklace. We've all had that example, necklace example. So say you are rushing out of your house in the morning. You've got to get to work. You're late already. So you're getting all your things together, running around, and just as you're leaving the front door, you look on the table where you usually keep your keys, whatever. And you look and you see no keys. So now you can't leave the house if you don't have keys. So you're running around thinking, where are my keys? Where are my keys? And usually if you live by yourself, it's not a problem. But if you live with other people, what happens when you're stressed and you can't find something? The immediate reaction is, for most people, to start advertising what you have lost. So now suddenly there'll be a shout from the front door, where are my keys? Who's seen my keys? Anybody seen them? And if anybody is in the house, then you'll hear, no. You only have your keys. You think, I can't see them. They're not in my bag. They're not on the table. So now you have to go through the whole thing. Okay, where did I see them last? When I came in last night, where did I put them? And everybody's insisting, no one has your keys. You have your keys. Now frantically you're trying to look in your bag. Maybe I dropped them near my shoes. And you put your hand in your coat pocket. And after your 5 minutes of shouting at everyone, where are my keys? You put your hand in your coat pocket, and what do you find? Your keys. So now in that distress of losing my keys, there is so much agitation and here and there. But finally, where are they? They're with you. Okay? In other words, you thought you lost something that you had all along. And what was required for you to find that thing that you had all along is nothing but a recognition. You have to be reminded and you have to recognize. So here also, if happiness is not of the nature of the world, or the world is not of the nature of happiness, then I must be of the nature of happiness. But I don't experience myself as happiness. I experience myself as limited. I experience sorrow. I experience so many things other than happiness. But if I'm of the nature of happiness, then surely I should know that. I should experience it. It should be in my awareness at every moment. So what we are reminded is, it is our nature, but for whatever reason, that it is our nature is not known to us. It's just not clear to us. And therefore, we have to rediscover it. How do we rediscover it? The key thing is our mind has to be prepared. Knowledge is required for us to recognize that we are of the nature of bliss. But in order for that recognition to take place, what is required is our mind has to be prepared. And for that, the most important thing for us to do is to follow our dharma, right? To just do what's required of us in life. Because if we do that, automatically our mind becomes focused. And we gain whatever it is that we require in order to discover this truth about ourselves. And now in the talks we had this beautiful explanation of what are the practices and the sadhanas that are required to gain knowledge. We won't go back over that. But the prerequisite is to prepare our mind. And that preparation of our mind happens through practice of dharma. Okay? Because it forces us to let go of everything that clouds our mind. Now, once the mind is clear, then we listen to the scriptures, we reflect on the scriptures, and we meditate on the truth that we recognize through those teachings. And that meditation, here we have this guided contemplation, guided reflection in this Nirvana Shatakam to help us just dwell on this truth. Because, sometimes when you've forgotten something and you rediscover it, before it becomes part of your identity again, you have to be reminded a few times. Okay? When you take on any new role, sometimes you have to be reminded because we forget. Whether it's a new responsibility at work or at home or in the society or community. Sometimes you need people to tell you, hey, you remember that's your job? You think, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be doing that. And then you can do it. Sometimes we forget, especially if it's a big thing. Say somebody wins the lottery or gains this huge inheritance. But up until that point in life, they've been living with the absolute minimum. Will those habits change overnight? If they were used to shopping in one particular supermarket and buying only the value brands, now suddenly will they start shopping in Selfridges every day after winning the lottery? No. Your basic habits, if they're ingrained for so long, they won't change. Right? Now, how long have we been thinking of ourselves as this body? How long? Can you remember when you started? Since as long as we've been alive. Okay? And more than that, because how long have we been living as this body? For that, you have to find out how old you are. And that tends not to be something people like to share. So that you don't have to say. But how long have we been living as our mind? That has been happening for much longer time. And therefore, that is our starting point here. In order to rediscover who we are, and in order to reinforce this message of what we are not, the starting point is the mind. Because most of us are living life according to our mind. We're not living life according to, yes, some according to body, some maybe according to intellect, but most of us are living life guided by our mind. And you know how you know? Because if you ask somebody, how are you? They reply with reference to body or mind or intellect. If you ask somebody, how are you doing? They'll reply with reference to mind. Most basic question, which some people get asked, you can get asked 10, 15, 20 times a day. And your first reference point is always mind. And then there are lots of other ways in which you can recognize, but just by this one indication, we come to see that our closest affiliation in terms of how we think of ourselves is with the mind. So this is where we start from when we have to recognize who we are not. We start with where our greatest identification is. Okay? So this is where Nirvana Shatakam starts. And Bhagavan says, I'm not the mind, intellect, ego, memory. I'm not the hearing or ears and tongue, nose and eyes. And I'm not the 5 elements. Should we read the verse? We can read the verse. Manobuddhyahankara chittani naham. Manobuddhyahankara chittani naham. Na cha shrotra jihve na cha ghrana netre. Na cha shrotra jihve na cha ghrana netre. Na cha vyoma bhumir na tejo na vayuhu. Na cha vyoma bhumir na tejo na vayuhu. Chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. Chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. So he says, I am not the mind, intellect, ego, memory. I am not the ears and tongue, nor the nose and eyes. I am not space or earth, nor fire, nor air. I am of the nature of consciousness, bliss. I am Shiva. Now, we have, Vedanta tells us, not one body, but 3 bodies. Okay? We have a gross body, physical body, we have a subtle body, and we have a causal body. Within our subtle body, we have what is called the inner instrument. And that inner instrument essentially is thoughts. But those thoughts are of 4 different characteristics. And according to the type of thought, we call it the mind, the intellect, the ego, and the memory. The mind is of the nature of doubt and resolve. And the mind is also incredibly powerful. There's a story that is often told. Puju Gurudev used to tell in a different way about somebody who is traveling through the forest on foot. And he's traveling and traveling. He has a very long way to go. He gets very tired. It's very hot. He's very uncomfortable, sweating and mosquitoes and flies, and he's also carrying something very heavy on his back. So walking, gets exhausted. And in his walking, he comes across this beautiful tree. And he thinks, you know what, I'll just sit down here just for 10 minutes, just to catch my breath. So he sits down, and unbeknownst to him, this is a very special tree. This tree is known as a wish-fulfilling tree. Because if you sit under that tree, anything you wish for will manifest. So he sits down and he thinks, oh, this shade is so nice. Wouldn't it be lovely if there were a gentle breeze blowing? That would really refresh me. So now a gentle breeze starts blowing. Ah, this is so nice. If only I had a cool drink of water. And suddenly a cool drink of water appears. He drinks it and he feels so good. You know, when you're parched and you drink water and you can feel it going down your throat, you feel so good. Wow. So he drinks the water. Then he lies down. And he's lying down on the ground and he thinks, you know, this is really nice, but if I had a nice soft bed to lie on, then I could get really good. I could have a really good rest here. And of course, as soon as he thinks that, he is finds himself lying on this beautiful bed with, what is it called? That memory foam mattress and pillow and perfect thickness blanket with high thread count sheets. He's enjoying himself a lot. Thinks, you know, this is so nice, but you know what I would love is if somebody would just press my feet. I've been walking for so long. I'm so tired. And of course, immediately somebody appears, starts massaging his feet. So nice. So now he's nice and cool. He's relaxed in this lovely, comfortable bed. Somebody is massaging his feet. I think this is so nice. Wouldn't it be terrible if suddenly a tiger appeared, pounced on me, and bit me? And of course, immediately what happens? From behind the tree, one tiger appears. And end of his dream, but end of him also. This mind is like a wish-fulfilling tree. In other words, it's so powerful. We don't recognize the power of our mind because what happens most of the time for us is we're going back and forth, right? This is the nature of the mind. Should I? Shouldn't I? Maybe I should. No, actually, I don't really want to. But it would be good if I did. But then again, so much effort. There's this constant back and forth. And this is the nature of the mind. That there is doubt, resolve, constantly back and forth. The mind is also the seat of all of our emotions. So not only desire and resolve, but also doubt, faith, also whatever emotions you can think of, anger, anxiety, excitement, fear, all of these are residing in the mind. So mind just means thoughts that are characterized by doubt and resolve, or by emotion or desire. This is a mind. Then what is the intellect? The intellect is thoughts characterized by rational, analytical, or thoughts that are characterized by determination. So when we make choices, or when we analyze something, or also when we gain knowledge, we are utilizing our intellect. The ahankara is what we call the ego or the I thought, which makes us think, I am doing. And memory is memory. So now if you think, most of the time in your day, is it possible to say which type of thought is operating for majority of the time? And if so, which one would it be? So one way of looking at it is, what is functioning constantly is the ego, I thought, right? Because whatever you are doing, wherever you are, whenever you are, this thought is always there that I am, and then you fill in your blank, right? This is the job of the ego, to apply this label of I, aham, to everything. Really speaking, activity is taking place in the realm of the body or the senses or the mind, right? So for example, right now, so many things are happening. One is sitting. Now, sitting is happening with the body, right? But the function of the I thought is, I am sitting. Listening or speaking is happening with the sense organs. So the ears are listening, or the mouth is speaking. But what is the function of the I thought? I am listening. I am speaking. The mind has thoughts of whatever anxiety, fear, or attachment, desire. But the I thought then functions and makes us think, I am anxious, or I am excited, I am happy, I am sad. So this I thought is functioning constantly. So if you think of the mind like a lake, on the surface of the lake, you have water that is in which you can observe change. So a breeze blows and some ripples are created, or something falls into the lake and you see ripples. At the in the depths of the lake is where you don't observe change. Okay? That water is relatively still. That water is like this I thought. It is always there, and it is being applied to everything that is going on. On the surface of the lake is where you have either the mind or the intellect. These types of thoughts that are functioning. In other words, thoughts of emotions, thoughts of knowledge or analysis or decision making, and also potentially thoughts of memory. Now, does the mind have direct contact with the world of objects? Of emotions and thoughts, that world exists within the mind, right? But with the world of objects, the mind has no direct contact. But the mind is where all of our perception takes place, and the mind is also where our responses to this world get determined. So this world is known to us in the mind, but it becomes known to us because of the senses. senses of perception. So your hearing, smell, taste, touch, and sight. So there is the mind, there is the senses which are feeding into the mind, and the material for both, which are the elements. Space, air, fire, water, and earth. In one verse, all of these are negated. I'm not the mind. I'm not the ego or I thought. I'm not the senses which are feeding in information. And I'm not the elements which are making up not only the external world, but also the internal equipment. Now, as we are performing all our duties in daily life, this will not be the first thought that comes to us. Okay? When you're at work and you're in a meeting, or you're at home and you're looking after your family, or you are, whatever you're doing, going shopping, having your lunch, you're not going to be thinking, okay, mouth is eating, but I'm not the mouth. Stomach is digesting, but I'm not the stomach. Most of the time we are preoccupied with the activity that is taking place. This thinking or this thought that is presented to us here is presented to us so that for most of us, when we have moments of quiet contemplation, the thoughts that take place in that moment can sink a little bit deeper. For most of us, meditation means practice. For most of us, meditation doesn't mean a state of being. Meditation can be seen as both. Right? Meditation is who we are, but meditation is also something that we practice. The practice is required so that eventually we get to a point where, whether it's 7 in the morning or 7 in the evening or the middle of the day, we are constantly aware of who we are. But for that to happen, there are moments of practice that are required. In other words, it's helpful to take time out and to just contemplate on the words, but then on the ideas. So this is presented for us to be guided in our practice of meditation, right? So when you are sitting down quietly and you do have time to think, to ponder these questions of who am I, then we're not left just to our own devices to think, who am I? Because we think, if we think by ourselves, you know where your mind can reach in 60 seconds or less, right? Start thinking, who am I? And then 1 minute later, you ended up thinking about kangaroos in Australia. And you think, how did I get here? Who am I? Okay, I define myself as according to my family. Who's in my family? Oh, yeah, I have one cousin in Australia who I've not spoken to in a really long time. I wonder what she's doing. Maybe she's enjoying the scenery in Australia. Also, who enjoys the scenery in Australia? Oh, yeah, there are kangaroos there. I've never seen a kangaroo in real life. Our thinking goes all over the place. Okay? So the point of this is, how can I guide my thinking to remind myself of who I am as per the truths that are presented in our scriptures? In other words, yes, we can think independently, but if our mind is not to be taken for granted, it needs a lot of care. The care comes in the form of this guidance, okay? care is in the form of this teaching. Okay, so we will see more of this next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudakshate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.